Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. It has been really quiet since the last video I made on an arena update, about 2 months, and finally this morning we got some concrete updates along with yesterday's press conference with Gary Bettman and Marty Walsh. I understand it's been quiet, people are frustrated, maybe some deadlines were speculated and passed and everyone's wondering what happened. If you need someone to blame, you can blame me. I swore after the Tempe vote that I would not spend another cent on this team in terms of merchandise going to games, and that was true for 8 months. And then right before Christmas, December 24th, this jersey was $75 off. I purchased it and I never wore it because I was scared, and I made a promise to you guys I wouldn't do it. I always say vote with your wallet, and right after I bought the jersey it was silence, radio silence from the team, and I thought, oh my god, I think I just jinxed this team and now the team's gonna move. But I'm confident now. This morning I was surprised to actually see some concrete news when I woke up. I thought this video would just be about Friday's press conference, but yes, it's been about 8.5 months, almost 9 months since the Tempe vote went no. If you got pregnant during that time, there is now a human being walking around. That's how long it has been. So let's get into the news this morning. A letter of intent was sent to the North Phoenix site, the same site that I talked about in my video on December 6th. It's Northeast Phoenix, about 20 minutes out. That video clearly and states where it is with pictures and GPS tracking from downtown Phoenix. Go watch that video. I'll link it into the description. It goes along with their only other letter of intent, which was sent to Mesa last summer. Now, in Gary Bettman's conference Friday, Gary Bettman said that he talked to Alex Morello. They're in constant talks. Just as recent as last week, Morello told Bettman that he's focusing on one property and things are progressing as they should. But then this morning in the AZ Central article, Guterres says that this letter of intent sent to North Phoenix is among other sites that the team is looking at. So what I could gather from here is privately, I think Morello and group have the Northeast Phoenix site as their primary site location privately. That's what they want. After Tempe, I think that's the most second favorable and desirable location. Publicly, they're going to say they're looking at multiple sites, because what happened in the Tempe situation, they said all our eggs are in one basket, we're now looking at other options, and that sort of blew up in their face. So I think they're going to keep Mesa on the back burner. I'm not sure how city officials like that about their city, Mesa, but again, I think publicly the Coyotes are never going to say this is the site until it's 100% passed through that this is the site, and they're going to start putting shovels in the ground. Now, the problem with this site in North Phoenix that they sent the letter of intent to, they need to win an auction. Now, face value, I think it should be an easy win. You're a billionaire, Alex Morello is. You're an NHL team. I'm sure they could gather some more funds. They didn't have any high expenses in the year 2023 because the Tempe vote went no. If that vote went yes, I believe it was like $60 to $100 million would automatically be sent to the city of Tempe to start remediation of the dump and landfill there. So they have money laying around. I'm sure they can outbid the other bidders for this piece of land. But yes, they cannot publicly say they are building an arena on this land until those processes go through and those deadlines keep getting moved. It's bureaucracy, it's the government. It's never going to be as fast as you want. And so that's why we get to number 2, where this All-Star game deadline was sort of speculated by Craig Morgan and PHNX and Guterres himself. He would say All-Star game, but in the same breath, he would always say first quarter 2024. Now, I think that still holds true, but I would not be surprised if this gets extended to end of the NHL current season. So it could extend to April, May, and June. I think once the Stanley Cup is awarded, we'll know for sure where the site is going to be. So don't hold them again to the first quarter deadline. It's not up to them. You have to realize that. It has to go through processes and they can't control delays with government. I'm sure all they want, and the NHL and the Coyotes just want to say, hey, we want this land. We're the winners. Let's announce it and let's start building. It has to go through processes and things get delayed. So I would not be surprised if this timeline extends to May and June, but that is the timeline. The All-Star game, it was always said with this timeline as well. So I really wasn't worrying too much. I was just worried that the team hasn't said anything in almost 2 months. And I only made that video because the Twitter account was teasing arena news. So I don't like making videos on speculation and rumors. I never do that. Even like trade speculation, there was so much Noah Hannafin to the Coyotes rumors and speculation earlier in the season. Never going to make a video on that. And it's not going to happen considering where the Coyotes are at in the playoff race right now. I'm sure they could use his help, but I don't think they're going to be buying that high in the playoff race. So let's get back into it. Bettman yesterday at the press conference said he talked to Morello last week and he's reasonably confident that the Coyotes are going to go through with this location that they told him they're looking at. And I can confer that it's going to be the Northeast Phoenix site. So as long as Bettman is okay, he reiterated that they're going to stay in Arizona and that's their goal. So as long as the league commissioner and Gary Bettman is fine with the process, he's in constant talks with Morello. He knows everything. Publicly, he can't state things due to legal processes regarding the auction. I was fine with Bettman's answer. I wasn't expecting anything else. I knew it would be a deferring sort of statement. Nothing's going to concretely be said. It's not like he's going to go up on the podium and say, hey, my pet project of the hockey team in the desert failed and they're relocating. That was never going to happen. He's never going to do that publicly. If that ever happens, which it probably won't, it will be a news release in like the middle of July, and that's how it's going to happen. It's never going to be Gary Bettman publicly stating his project failed. His long-term project of like over 20 years failed. So we get to number 4. This Marty Walsh, recently hired by the NHL Players Association in March 2023. So he's coming up to 1 year. He's mad. Whenever he talks about the Coyotes and Mullet Arena, it's always negative. But at the end of the day, he has no power. He has no control over what the league does, over what Arizona does. He can say all he wants. And honestly, I think that's maybe he is way too negative whenever he talks about the Coyotes. He never really gives credit to the Coyotes management and ownership that they're growing the game in Arizona, and the growth numbers have been exceptional over the past 15, 20 years. It's always negative, a bit too much, but at least someone's putting pressure on Alex Morello and the Coyotes group. That's the only reason why it's fine. I'm not too upset, but again, it's way too negative. And he was brought into this situation. They're already playing at Mullet by the time Walsh was hired. So I'm sure he comes in and he's like, why is one team playing in such a small arena? And why are their revenues so low compared to every other team who plays in a 15,000 or more arena? So he has questions. But again, as long as the Morello group and Coyotes ownership aren't forced to talk to Walsh, who just is a players association spokesperson, as long as they do everything right by Bettman, I think it should end there. You can argue they could be nicer and talk to Walsh and calm him down and alleviate his concerns, but they don't have to. So yes, they probably should. But again, as long as Bettman's okay with it, that kind of all that matters. Bettman and the league approved Mullet Arena. They approved the contract of 3 seasons with an option of a 4th season. They approved all the amenities. All the amenities are fixed. That makeshift locker room was only for 4 games 2 years ago. Everything's fine. I think it would be much worse if the players of Arizona were constantly complaining. I think it would be much worse if all the players on the opposition teams came into Arizona and just hated playing at Mullet. They just recently did an athletic survey of about 200 players, and Winnipeg's arena was voted the worst to visit and play in at 40%. There was only 3 really negative comments about the Mullet Arena out of 200 players. So again, the Arizona players aren't really pressuring Marty Walsh and the Players Association, hey, this sucks to play at. Players who have left Arizona in trades or free agency or whatever have never said anything bad. So there's not so much pressure. I agree, there's a small amount that probably hates it, but it's not enough to really push the league to do something. So it's pretty much just nonsense, and they're probably just yelling into a void. But at the end of the day, I think it's good that there's some pressure on this ownership group to just get it going. Because maybe, I agree, Bettman's a bit too lenient with the Coyotes. It is his pet project. He wants it in the desert, and he's going to do whatever he can. At least now there's another party that's like, hey, Bettman, you got to get this finished immediately and get it going. So the contract for Mullet is another 2 years. It's for sure one more year with the option of a second. We'll see from there what happens, because I don't think an arena could be built in the next 2 seasons. It would have to be really quick. And, hopefully they don't cut corners doing it. I could just imagine the Coyotes announce the arena deal, they build it, and then things go wrong. That'd be like nightmare fuel for Coyotes fans. But as long as they just do it right, I think once the Coyotes just say, this is the spot, we bought it, we own the land, we're going to start doing it, this should all go away. And to me, I think it's going to be 3 more seasons at Mullet, or after the next 2 seasons, maybe they just find a 1-year solution in a bigger arena. But again, that's all way into the future. And right now, we should hear that they bought a piece of land and own a piece of land probably by April. And don't be surprised if it extends to May or June. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.